Indeed, Diabo. The social summit is concluding today with that declaration that is going to be read out. We do know that the president of Brazil, President Lula da Silva, will be accompanying President Cyril Ramaphosa here at the social summit. The declaration of the social summit will ultimately try and influence the outcomes and the deliberations of the G20 Leaders Summit, even though one nation that is powerful globally, South Africa's #1 trading partner, feels as if there should be no declaration without them at the G20 Leaders Summit this weekend. Those deliberations of the B20 will ultimately also be infused with the deliberations here at the social summit. I am now going to engage with Mr. Ekurhuleni Chivuta, who is the chairperson of the social aspect of G20, the C20. Mr. Chivuta, the deliberations have been ongoing for the past 3 days. Has the declaration been agreed upon here at the social summit that will ultimately be sent to the G20 Leaders Summit this weekend?
Good morning, Mr. Maseko and the viewers of SABC News. We can confirm that the whole day of yesterday was dedicated into content-based substantive discussions around thematic areas that constitute the pillar of the declaration. When those thematic areas concluded their commissions, they gathered in plenary. We had further deliberations on content, leading to the adoption of what is to be the declaration of the social summit that this morning will be handed over to the President of the Republic of South Africa, who is also the President of G20.
Mr. Chivuta, what are some of the highlighting points of deliberations for the past 3 days, particularly around economic inclusion? South Africa's theme for this G20 is inclusive growth. There has been a number of discussions and calls by the delegates here from the various civic organizations, NGO, traditional authorities for inclusive growth, particularly on an economic aspect.
The discussions of the commissions have gone big on the economic discussions. At the center of it all, the premise of our economic discussion is that people must share in the country's wealth. That applies to the whole of Africa and the world, informed by the fact that the world as a whole have sufficient resources that can take care of all its citizens, but is just trapped in inequality where a few have a lot and the majority have nothing. And so, in the declaration itself, there is a pillar that is dedicated on trade and all value chains related to that, which in our case selfishly can also relate and highlight the issues of beneficiation, promoting economic growth that is hinged on industrialization, which industrialization can be supported by manufacturing and beneficiation. Beyond that, we ventured into discussions as well as one of the pillars of the declaration on finance and global financial architecture, including issues of debt, where we are not mincing our word, calling for debt cancellation coupled with reparations, including a regime of finance that does not look into the South and disadvantage it in favor of the North.
Well, Mr. Chivuta, when you look at the issues, particularly of the global economy, one leader in South Africa always likens it to Irish coffee, where
Yes.
You've got the coffee at the bottom of the cup. Then at the top, you've got the cream, which is ultimately with a sprinkle of black on it. How would you look at changing the global economic architecture and the global economic funding model, particularly in a world that is largely concentrated around a few and the majority downtrodden, particularly if you look at the developing global South?
Our assertion is that for the growth of the economy to be meaningful, it has to place people at the center of that growth. For the economy itself to be meaningful, it has to work and benefit the people. Our discussions are positioned in such a way that we do not suggest that the economic activities must unfold up to conclusion, and then the people become the passive beneficiaries of those economic activities. Our assertion is that people must be placed at the center as active agents of that growth, including as beneficiaries of that growth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ekurhuleni Chivuta. That is Mr. Ekurhuleni Chivuta, who is the chairperson of the C20, looking at the declaration that has ultimately been agreed upon and signed at this social summit, where President Ramaphosa, alongside Brazilian President Lula da Silva, you'd remember that Lula moment, particularly issues of uplifting the working class and the downtrodden, were uplifted by the President of Brazil, Lula da Silva. Over to you, Ayanda.